And we're live. Okay, so this is going to be just a quick video about general principles for mixing audio that apply to both mixing in a live room with speakers and mixing in a live stream. And I'm going to just show a couple of tips on how to optimize your audio for a live stream specifically. And so the gear I'm using, this is a Behringer microphone, nothing special, XM 1800S. Behind me is a Rode NTG3B. That one's a super nice mic that I use for like video creation and stuff, and I'll explain why we have that. A10 MIDI Pro and the XAIR series mixer, the XR18. And I'm running everything into my laptop, which has OBS Studio, and I'm streaming at 6,000 kilobits a second for the video, 160 kilobits a second for the audio. Okay, so when we talk about using a microphone in a live environment, whether it's speakers or whether it's in a live stream, the biggest thing that I think is pertinent to the live stream in particular is reducing the dynamic range. And when you are streaming to the web or any kind of content online, having a full, robust sound that, the quiet things, like I'm talking very quiet, versus the loud things, I'm talking very loud, the range between the quietest and the loudest is squished down to a small size, and it's all boosted up to right about the maximum volume level that devices can accommodate. And what that does is it gives the listener a certain loudness to your content that's kind of expected. When you watch a YouTube video or a movie or any kind of professionally streamed content, all of the audio is being delivered to you at a pretty high level, and that's what devices expect. And so by compressing, people don't have to max out the volume on their smartphones to hear everything that's being said. So I'm going to demonstrate kind of how that's done in the XAIR series mixer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between doing it in a live setting with speakers in the room and with a live stream, and I'm going to show you how to do both at the same time. So I'm going to switch over so we can see the mixer right now. You see OBS going wild back there. Let me minimize that just so it's not distracting. So here you see we have two microphones. We have the MC and we have the room mic. That's the Rode mic that was behind me. If we look at the MC mic, the first thing you do is you want to have good gain staging. And so when you bring a channel in, I like to have this meter. I like to raise the microphone gain until this meter is about -10 for the average content, okay? But one thing to keep in mind, if somebody were to speak loudly, you would not want it to go up into the red. So hey, 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 hey. See, the highest that kind of goes is just about -5. Okay, if it gets up to 0, that's way too much. But -10 on average is a good starting place, okay? And then what we do is you'll notice on the input itself, here's the mic gain, okay? Here's a noise gate, and so I'm going to turn the noise gate off so you can hear without it. That's without, and here's with. And you'll notice over here is this little red coming down. That is the gate closing when it doesn't get any signal from the microphone. And the threshold is how hot the signal needs to be before the gate will open. So if I raise it really high, hey, 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 you notice I'm not getting above the threshold. What you're hearing right now is the Rode mic behind me. Once I bring it down and my voice is crossing the threshold, you'll notice the gate is opening. Okay? Over here, 0 milliseconds means as soon as the signal crosses, the gate's going to open fully. It's going to take 0 milliseconds to go from closed to open. The range is how far closed the gate will go when there's no signal. So if you go like to 60 dB, it's going to close all the way. Watch. It's hard to get it to close all the way because of the threshold. Let me raise the threshold. Okay. So you'll notice when it's 60 dB, the gate closes all the way down. If you bring the range down to maybe just 18, it just takes away 18 decibels when the threshold is not exceeded. Watch. And so when it's that way, it's more natural sounding because you can still hear some of the room noise, but it's quieted by 18 decibels. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit higher. I like it like 30. okay? So I already said the attack is how long the signal, after the signal crosses the threshold, how long does it take the gate to fully open? I want it to open instantly. I want it to hold for 282 milliseconds before it begins closing after the signal drops below the threshold. Okay, so once this green bar on the threshold goes below where the threshold is set, it'll wait 282 milliseconds before the red line starts. And it's really fast. It's almost not apparent, but that's what that does. And then the release, it takes 752 milliseconds after this 282 milliseconds has elapsed for the gate to fully close to its minus or to its 30 dB threshold. So I'll say that again. Once you exceed the threshold, the gate will open in 0 milliseconds is how fast it'll do it. It'll stay open for 282, and then after the signal goes below the threshold, it'll take 752 milliseconds to close itself. If this is too fast, it starts sounding stuttery and jittery. Watch, if I bring this way down, hear that? And you see that red bar, how fast it comes down? Okay, and if this were faster, if it didn't hold any faster, look at this. It's like choppy, 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 choppy. So I'm going to bring this back up, maybe about here, and I'm going to let it release more slowly. So I think that's about nice right there. So it just starts to slowly bring itself down after the voice goes away, okay? Over here, this is a filter, and it's saying you don't have to use a filter. If you turn the filter off, that means any sound coming in will open the gate if it's loud enough. Filter says any sound that's 80 hertz that comes in will open the gate. And so a human voice makes a lot of like 100 hertz, 200 hertz, 300 hertz. So you want to try to find a frequency that's specific to the human voice, but not specific to something else in the room. So I think 150, that's probably a safe place to be, okay? And this is basically just saying I want you to look specifically for this frequency when you're talking about the threshold over here. So 143 hertz and some of the frequencies on either side of it are what are going to be impacted. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so next we're going to look at EQ. So the only thing I'm doing on the EQ is I'm using a low cut to roll off anything below 140 hertz or so, because that's just bass that we don't need to hear from the speaker. And then these mics are a little bit bright, so you'll notice I'm using a shelf and I'm just taking away some of the high frequencies, okay? Now, let's talk about compression because this is the most important part. Compression, which is has some similar features to the gate, basically says if the frequency exceeds whatever threshold you decide, you hear me talking here, and you can see it in the green, once it passes that, squash it down. And so you'll notice every time I talk, there's all this red coming down, and that's my voice being pushed lower. Okay, so this is reduction in the loudest parts of my speaking. And then over on this side, this gain, this is bringing up the most quiet parts of my speaking. If I turn the compressor off, you'll notice that my voice is a lot less pronounced. So there's still a second there's a second compressor going on the bus, and I'll show you that in a second. But just for the channel here, let me turn it off on the bus too, and we'll come back to it. So now there's no compression at all on my voice. Okay, so this is me uncompressed. Okay, and then this is me compressed. So the loud stuff is squashed down, the quiet stuff is boosted. All right. The ratio is basically how aggressive does it compress. 10 is a pretty aggressive compression. In a live vocal setting, if I was a singer, you might compress with a ratio of 2-to-1. But basically this is saying if my voice exceeds the threshold, for every 10 dB that it exceeds the threshold, only 1 extra dB of volume will come out. That's what a 10 means, or a 10-to-1. Mix is basically saying the signal that's coming after the compressor is 100% modified by the compressor. If I put it to 50, then it's 50% uncompressed signal and 50% compressed signal. So it's half and half, basically a less aggressive version, but I leave it at 100. Okay, and then again, the gain right here is making up for the quietness of my softer speech. And so if I turn this off and I'm going to speak quietly now, watch the meter going to the stream. Okay, so I'm going to turn the compressor off. All right, hey, 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 this is me speaking quietly. I'm speaking quietly into the mic, and you'll notice on the channel strip, I'm at -20, and on the stream, I'm also at -20. When I turn the compressor on, my input signal on the channel is -20, but my output on the main stream is -10. Okay, so input is -20, output is -10, meaning I am getting 10 extra dB for the quietest parts of my voice. I'll turn the compressor off and I'm going to speak loudly now. Hey, 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 hey. Okay, so I'm going to -5 on the input over on the output. Hey, 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 also -5. If I turn the compressor on, hey, 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 hey. Okay, I'm at -5 to -10 for both the loud and the quiet. Watch this when I toggle between loud and quiet now that I'm compressed. Hey, 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 hey. So it's averaging between -10 and -5 for the loud and the quiet. So it's only a 5 dB difference, whereas before it was -20 and -5, which is a huge difference. That's 15 dB of difference, and every 3 dB is a perceived doubling of volume. Okay, so that's a big deal. So we've reduced our dynamic range from 15 dB to 5 dB. So not bad. So now what I want to talk about is if you're mixing, I've done a live stream before where I did that retirement ceremony for the general. We were mixing the sound for the speakers in the room for everybody to hear and mixing the live stream at the same time. And so why that's important is when you're compressing for a live stream, you try to get that dynamic range nice and small so that your listener on a smartphone or whatever, it's just big, rich volume, super loud. Even if someone's not, really projecting into the mic, it's boosted very nicely and everybody can hear it with no problems. The problem with speakers in a room is if you were to compress that much for the speakers in the room, you would get feedback because the speakers are now super sensitive to even slight noises, and there's a loop between the speakers and the microphone that occurs, and you get feedback. And so in that situation, the channel strip compressor, which is what I just showed you, will be compressed for the room, most likely. And then on the stream itself, we will apply a second compressor to that output bus. And so I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go back to channel 4. You can see my screen again. So let's just assume that the compression settings, even though they're not correct for a room, let's assume that what we just did is about what you would do for the room, okay? And then you'd say, hey, my stream is still not loud enough. If we look at OBS, look down here, it looks pretty good, actually. We're hitting in the yellow and the red. So, hitting maximum yellow and a little bit of red means that you're sending the most optimum signal, to the internet, basically, or the output of OBS. And I know, red is bad on, digital mixers and everything else, but trust me, if you're getting up here where you're just tickling in the red, that's a good thing because then you can turn your volume up halfway on a smartphone and get good, clear volume out of it. So, all right, so let's look at this bus now. So what's happening is this microphone and this room microphone are being mixed into this bus. Bus 3 and 4 are linked as a stereo pair. So basically, if you click on main left right, this is how it would control the volume going to the speakers in the room. And then on bus 3 and 4, this is how you mix the live stream specifically. Okay, so I can turn this down. Now you're hearing more of this microphone behind me. Okay. I'll bring that down and bring this back up. Okay, so the stream, let's just say the stream we want to compress even more. So, or different than the room. So we turn the compressor on here, and you'll notice this one, I have a ratio of 100:1, which is a limiter. Any signal that goes above the threshold will get completely blocked from going any louder. Okay, so now if I talk, hey, 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 you'll notice that my stream, hey, 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 is just getting limited to between 10 and 5. This means I will never clip OBS. Okay, and so basically what I did was I pulled up OBS. I pulled up OBS, and I let's take the threshold all the way up. Okay, and now we're going to see OBS clip. Hey, hey, hey. See it going to the red right there? If you look at my mouse, hey, 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 hey. It's clipping. Okay, so I'm going to start bringing the threshold down with 100%, 100:1 reduction, and wait for that red to go away when I'm loud. Hey, 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 hey. Okay, and so right there at the loudest program material, if someone just blasted into the microphone like this, hey, it would not clip OBS. It would be in the red, but it would never turn the whole meter red, meaning it's clipping. Okay, and I'm using also another 4.5 dB of makeup gain to make the quiet stuff even louder. And so you'll notice if I'm talking quietly or if I'm talking loudly, loudly, if we're looking at the OBS meter, I'm sitting right here between the yellow and the red. Hey, 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 hey. Okay. And so if you care about how it's routed, if we just click on stream right now and then we go to sends, if we go to in and out, USB sends, you'll notice that buses 3 and 4 are being sent out of USB 1 and 2 ports, which is what OBS is looking for, okay? And if we right click, they're being sent pre-fader plus mute. What that means is it's receiving the compression from the channel strip and it's receiving the EQ from the channel strip, okay? If I were to use post EQ plus mute, it would receive the EQ from the channel strip, but not the compression. And if I did pre-EQ, then it would not receive the EQ. And if I did analog, it would receive just the signal that's coming in the channel before any processing. When I say it, I mean this bus right here, this 3 to 4 bus. So I have both of them as this fuchsia, which is pre-fader plus mute. And what the pre-fader means is if I get out of the in and out, and I go back to the main mix. Okay, so let's click on main left right. Pre-fader means that no matter what I'm doing to the faders for the audience on the main left right, it doesn't affect the live stream. That means pre-fader. If it was post-fader, if I started, the fader that it's talking about is the main speaker fader. So if it's post-fader, then when I bring this down, the live stream would also get quieter. Okay, and that might have its advantages. It just depends on how much control you want to have. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, how I compress live stream audio and room audio at the same time. And you do things for the live stream just a little bit differently than you would do them in a main like band mix or a house mix for people with speakers. You really the advantage of live stream audio is you can really squash it down, kind of like radio broadcasters do. And all of the talking is just this big, healthy level, and you can't do that with speakers without getting feedback in most cases. So just one other point. So this microphone behind me, basically we're doing a retirement ceremony tomorrow. I'm going to place this one somewhere in the room just so that we can hear people clapping and audience interaction. And there might be music played by somebody else. I'm not actually controlling the music, but I'm going to try to get a feed from the board so that I can get that program material. But in any case, this also just serves as a backup. It can, if I had to, I could point it at the speakers in the room and collect audio that way. But I'm probably just going to use a Y cable off of the receiver for their wireless mics, and I'm going to send myself an XLR off of that Y split out of the back of the house wireless microphones. That way I can set the gain the way I like it. And then I can just use this guy to pick up audience interaction and anything else that's going on in the room. So I hope that helped. I know that was long and drawn out, but I really enjoy this stuff, and maybe any of you might have learned something today, and even if just one did,